Today, I'm here to tell you something that might sound uncomfortable. Stop being the nice person. Yes, you heard that right. For too long, being nice has been confused with being agreeable, self-sacrificing, or silent in the face of discomfort. It's been used as a mask to hide our boundaries, our power, and our truth. Nice people are often the ones who get overlooked, overused, and underestimated. Why? Because they're too afraid to rock the boat. Too busy pleasing everyone else, and while they're doing that, someone bolder, louder, and unapologetically real is getting what they want. Let me be clear, I'm not saying be cruel. I'm not saying lose your kindness. I'm saying ditch the fake nice that keeps you small. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop letting people cross your lines just to keep the peace. The world doesn't need more nice people. It needs real people, people with boundaries, with courage, with backbone. So today, I challenge you, stop being the nice person. Be the authentic one. Be the one who speaks up, who values their time, who knows their worth. Because the moment you stop being nice for approval is the moment you start being powerful. 1. Being nice often means self-abandonment. At first glance, being nice seems like a virtue. You smile, you accommodate, you help, you give. Society tells you it's the right thing to do, but behind that niceness is often a hidden cost, your own needs, desires, and voice. Self-abandonment happens when you consistently put the comfort, approval, or validation of others above your own truth. You ignore your intuition, you suppress your emotions, you silence your opinions. Why? Because you're afraid of being judged, disliked, or rejected. You'd rather be seen as easygoing than risk being labeled as difficult. You'd rather be agreeable than honest. Think about it. How many times have you said yes when every part of you was screaming no? How many times have you laughed at a joke that made you uncomfortable, stayed quiet when someone crossed a line? Gave your time, energy, or attention when you were already running on empty? That's not niceness. That's emotional self-erasure. The truth is, when you abandon yourself repeatedly for the sake of being seen as nice, you train the world to believe that your boundaries are optional, that your time is flexible, that your presence comes without conditions, and the worst part, you begin to believe it too. You lose your sense of who you really are, not the version of you shaped by politeness and performance, but the version of you who has needs, preferences, boundaries, and power. Being nice becomes a performance, one that exhausts you, confuses others, and erodes your self-respect. Because every time you say it's fine when it's not, every time you say I don't mind when you absolutely do, every time you stay silent to avoid rocking the boat, you're choosing to abandon yourself. And that decision adds up day by day until you're left with a life shaped more by other people's expectations than your own values. 2. Nice is not the same as kind. There's a critical difference between being nice and being kind, but many people use the two interchangeably, and that confusion can be damaging. Being nice is often about surface-level behavior. It's performative. It's driven by how others perceive you, not by what's true or right. Nice people smile even when they're uncomfortable. They agree to avoid conflict. They bite their tongue, not out of wisdom, but out of fear of upsetting someone, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as difficult. Niceness prioritizes image over integrity. Kindness, on the other hand, is rooted in genuine care, even when it's uncomfortable. Kindness doesn't mean sugarcoating the truth or shrinking yourself to keep others happy. It means acting with empathy and honesty, even when it's hard. A kind person will tell you the truth you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. A kind person will set boundaries because they respect both you and themselves. Kindness comes from strength, not from fear. Nice people often aim to be liked. Kind people aim to be real. Nice people avoid hard conversations. Kind people are willing to have them if it means growth, healing, or clarity. Nice people seek approval. Kind people act from values, not validation. The truth is, niceness can actually be a mask, a way to hide discomfort, resentment, or passivity. You can be nice while lying, manipulating, or silently judging. Kindness, though, requires emotional honesty. You can't fake it. It demands that you show up authentically, with compassion, but also with boundaries, courage, and truth. So when you think about how you show up in your relationships, your workplace, or even with strangers, ask yourself, Are you being nice to be accepted, or are you being kind to be true? The world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs people who are honest, caring, and grounded enough to be kind, even if that kindness comes in the form of uncomfortable truth, firm boundaries, or simply saying no. 3. People pleasing leads to resentment. At first, people pleasing might seem like a harmless or even noble trait. You want to be helpful. You want people to be happy. You want to avoid conflict, so you give a little more, stretch a little further, say yes, a little too often. It feels like you're doing the right thing, being generous, flexible, cooperative, but underneath that people-pleasing behavior, there's often something darker growing: resentment. Resentment builds when your internal reality doesn't match your external behavior. You might be smiling and saying, "Sure, I can help," but inside you feel irritated, exhausted, or overlooked. You begin to notice that people take from you without offering anything back. You realize that you're always adjusting yourself for others, but no one seems to do the same for you. Why? Because people-pleasing teaches others that your needs are secondary or invisible. It sends the message that you're always available, always accommodating, and that your limits can be pushed without consequence. Worse, people-pleasing is rarely about kindness. It's about control. You shape your behavior in the hope that others will like you, accept you, or not get angry with you. You sacrifice your own feelings to avoid discomfort. But that avoidance comes at a price. You suppress your truth, your voice, and your authenticity. Over time, you begin to feel angry not just at others, but at yourself, angry that you didn't speak up, that you didn't say no, that you didn't prioritize your own well-being, that you keep showing up for people who wouldn't do the same for you. And the more this pattern repeats, the more bitter you become. You start to feel used, undervalued, even invisible. But here's the hard truth. People can't respect boundaries you never set. They can't meet needs you never voiced. And they can't be blamed for expectations you never communicated. People-pleasing is not sustainable. It may bring short-term peace, but it leads to long-term frustration. The more you betray yourself to keep others comfortable, the more disconnected and resentful you become, not just toward them, but toward the version of yourself that keeps playing small to stay liked. 4. Boundaries are not rude, they're necessary. One of the biggest misconceptions people have, especially those who fall into the nice person trap, is that setting boundaries is rude, selfish, or aggressive. Many of us were raised to believe that saying no is disrespectful, that declining an invitation is inconsiderate, or that standing up for ourselves is confrontational. So instead, we say yes. Out of guilt, we overextend ourselves to avoid disappointing others, and we silently endure situations that violate our comfort or values. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about protecting what matters most inside you. Your time, your energy, your mental peace, your self-respect, these are not infinite resources. When you don't set boundaries, you give people unspoken permission to drain them, and over time, that leads to burnout, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. Boundaries are a way of saying, this is what I can offer, and this is what I can't. They communicate what's acceptable and what isn't, not to control others, but to clarify your own needs and standards. When done with honesty and respect, boundaries strengthen relationships because they remove confusion and build mutual understanding. The fear that boundaries will push people away is often rooted in insecurity, a belief that we must earn love, approval, or belonging by always being available or agreeable. But real connection can only thrive where there's authenticity, and authenticity requires limits. Saying, "I can't take this on right now," is not rude, it's honest. Saying, "I don't feel comfortable with that," is not offensive, it's self-respecting. Saying, "I need some time for myself," is not distant, it's self-care. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions in response to your boundaries. If someone is offended because you're no longer overextending yourself, that's a reflection of their entitlement, not your disrespect. Strong boundaries are a sign of emotional maturity. They say, "I respect myself enough to protect my well-being, and I respect you enough to be clear and honest with you." You don't have to yell, over-explain, or apologize for protecting your peace. You just have to believe that your well-being matters and act like it does. 5. Respect comes from authenticity, not compliance. A lot of people operate under the false belief that if they just keep saying yes, agreeing with everyone, and staying quiet when things feel wrong, they'll earn respect. They believe that being easygoing, agreeable, and low maintenance makes them likable and therefore respected. But that's not how respect works, not real respect. Respect doesn't come from how much you accommodate others. It doesn't come from being liked or being the person who never causes friction. In fact, people often respect you more when you're honest, assertive, and clear, even if it's uncomfortable. Compliance might keep you safe from conflict, but it doesn't earn you respect. At best, it gets you tolerated. At worst, it gets you walked on. Why? Because when you constantly agree with others, even when you don't mean it, you become unreadable. People don't know what you actually believe, where you stand, or what matters to you. You become a mirror for their opinions instead of a person with your own convictions. That doesn't build trust, it builds confusion, and people don't respect what they can't trust. Authenticity, on the other hand, commands attention. It tells people, this is who I am, this is what I value, this is what I will and won't tolerate. It doesn't mean being harsh, rude, or inflexible, it means being real. It means showing up as the same person, regardless of who you're talking to or what room you're in. When you're authentic, people may not always agree with you. In fact, some may criticize you, push back, or even distance themselves. But the ones who stay, the ones who hear your no, witness your boundaries, see your honesty, and still want to be in your life, those are the people who truly respect you. People can tell when you're faking it, when you're nodding to keep the peace, when you're saying what you think they want to hear. But they also notice when you stand your ground calmly, confidently, and without apology. That's what earns respect. The truth is, there is nothing admirable about being agreeable at the cost of your values. There's nothing impressive about being passive just to avoid discomfort. What's admirable, what's powerful, is someone who chooses truth over ease, values over approval, and integrity over image. If you want people to respect you, stop trying to blend in. Be honest, be real, be unapologetically yourself. 6. You can't be everyone's favorite, and you shouldn't try. One of the biggest traps nice people fall into is the addiction to approval. They move through life trying to be liked by everyone, coworkers, family members, strangers, even people whose opinions shouldn't matter. The idea is simple. If everyone likes me, I'm safe, I'm good. I'm enough, but that pursuit is not only exhausting, it's impossible. Trying to be everyone's favorite means constantly shifting. You dilute your personality to avoid offending anyone. You downplay your opinions even when they matter deeply to you. You hide your edges, smooth your voice, and bend your boundaries, all in the name of being likable. But here's the cost. You end up with an identity that doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to everyone else's expectations. No matter how kind, giving, or accommodating you are, there will always be someone who misinterprets you, dislikes you, judges you, or simply doesn't click with you. That's life. That's human nature. And the moment you accept this truth, you free yourself from the soul, crushing pressure to be universally approved of. Being liked is a fleeting, unstable goal because people's preferences are constantly changing. What makes one person love you might be the exact thing that makes another uncomfortable. You could spend your entire life contorting yourself to fit into molds that were never meant for you and still end up feeling unseen, unfulfilled, and unappreciated. The people who truly matter, the ones who belong in your life, are not the ones who require you to censor yourself to stay in their good graces. They're the ones who value you for your wholeness, not just the parts that are easy to digest. And you'll never find those people if you're too busy being a watered-down version of yourself just to stay inoffensive. When you stop trying to be everyone's favorite, something powerful happens. You start becoming your own favorite. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be enough. You start speaking honestly, living fully, and making choices that honor your values, not just your reputation. You weren't born to be palatable. You weren't made to fit into every room. You were made to stand out in the rooms that matter. 7. Power and peace come from alignment, not from being liked. Many people spend their lives chasing the illusion that being liked will bring them happiness, success, or inner peace. They believe that if enough people approve of them, if they can just avoid offending anyone, if they can keep everything smooth and conflict-free, they'll feel powerful, grounded, and fulfilled. But that's a myth. Being liked is not the same as being at peace, and it's definitely not the same as being powerful. In fact, the more you chase approval, the more disempowered you become because your sense of worth becomes tied to how others perceive you, and that perception is always out of your control. You live on edge, constantly monitoring your words, your tone, your choices, afraid that one wrong move will cost you someone's affection or validation. Power doesn't come from being everyone's favorite. It comes from being in alignment with yourself. Alignment means your words match your values, your actions reflect your beliefs, your boundaries support your well-being. You're not performing to fit in or bending to please. You're grounded in who you are, and you operate from that truth. When you're aligned, you don't need to fake confidence. You don't need to manipulate others' opinions. You don't walk into rooms wondering who's going to like you because your focus shifts from external validation to internal clarity. And from that place, peace naturally follows. Peace isn't found in keeping everyone happy. It's found in knowing you're living with integrity. It's in the quiet confidence that comes from choosing honesty over pretense, boundaries over guilt, and purpose over popularity. You may disappoint people when you stop being the nice version of yourself, but you will no longer be disappointing you. This doesn't mean being cold, distant, or unkind. It means being honest, consistent, and whole. When your inner life, your values, needs, and truth matches your outer life, your decisions, relationships, and behavior, you unlock a kind of peace that external approval could never provide. Alignment is where real power lies. It's where your voice strengthens, your confidence stabilizes, and your relationships become deeper and more authentic. Because you're no longer showing up as a version of yourself that's curated for acceptance, you're showing up as yourself, fully aligned and unapologetically real.